I've known Dustin Barron my whole life, and there's nobody I'd trust more with my field. That's DJB Recreation Group. From field grading and turf installation to safety netting, padding, and facility upgrades, DJB Sportsworks travels across the Southeast to build and maintain the spaces where your athletes compete. Compliant, safe, and built to last. This episode of Beyond the List is brought to you by DJB Recreation Group. DJB Recreation Group. Compliant, safe, on time, every time. Call 404-317-2315 or visit djbrecreationgroup.com. Now for this week's episode of Beyond the List.
Welcome back. This is Billy with Coach Dooley's List, and we are back for the 2026-2027 school year. I am very excited today. Get to meet with my buddy, Mr. Andre Clark, here at Discovery High School, head football coach, and we got to know each other a little bit last year. We talked about getting on, and I'm excited for what you're doing here, and looking forward to talking to you today.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, Coach. Well, listen, kind of jump right in. You've been, when did you get the job? In March?
I got the job in January. When we come back from Christmas break, called me and met with the principal, and they told me that they was going to give me the job.
All right, so 8 months in, okay. And first question I always ask coaches is, tell us a little bit about your coaching journey and what led up to getting here at Discovery.
Well, I was playing at Tusculum, right? So I was going to transfer. Something happened with my transcript, and I needed a certain amount of money to get my transcript. So I said, all right, I'm going to take a year off, go to work. And in that meantime, I started coaching 12U football. That's when I fell in love with coaching. That's when I realized it's probably, my calling in life is coaching. So I did that. I coached a local recreation program. And the rec director at the time, I had took the team to the GRPA state championship.
Okay.
And he said, man, you need to be coaching high school. He said, man, I'm going to call the high school coach at the school I went to. I went to Seatown High School. So he called him. He said, man, go up there and talk to him. So I go talk to him. Hey, we talk about everything but the job. So I leave and I go back and I say, hey, man, he said that about our job. He said, really? I said, yeah. So he called him. He said, man, go back up there. And he calls and he says, well, I might have a middle school spot. But I was also doing some GA at West Georgia. And I was like, no, I don't want to go from college guys to middle school guys. So I just keep doing that. So I was on my way home, and the coach that coached me at high school was at Rockmart. And he said, hey, man, he trying to get a job in high school. I said, yeah. He said, come talk to me and Dan Duff, who was the head coach of Rockmart at the time. So go in there, 20 minutes in, got the job. So it pays not to be a butthole to your coaches in high school, because you never know, where your job go come from.
Oh, yeah. And so getting there, where'd you go from there? So you were at Rockmart, and that was all the way up to here, wasn't it?
Yep. So I was at Rockmart for 11, 12 years, trying to, I never thought I would leave Rockmart, to be honest with you, because I had fell in love with the community and, the kids there in the program. Because, we was coaching them from 6 all the way through. So, I was waiting on guys. There's some guys that's on that team now that I was waiting on them guys. But, I thought it was time for a change. So ended up here at Discovery.
Well, and that's because Rockmart's right near Cedartown.
It is.
Where you're from.
It's a rival school. Yeah.
And that's what's cool. I love what you said is, you get those kids in sixth grade and I think it happens a lot of places, but especially in the smaller communities where you see them grow up. And I know one of the things we kind of talked a little bit about is building the youth program, out here. So that kind of leads me into my next question. Being at Rockmart, also coming from college and just starting off with youth and stuff, what are the things that you want, your program here to be known for?
I wanted to be known as, and I talked to the administrators and the teachers, like I want to bring that small town community feel here. Like I want to have engagement with our elementary schools. I want youth to want to be little titans. I know they had the JFL and all that, but I want guys to want to be here, like right. Grow up, want to have that T on their chest. So I'm trying to develop that. I get out and I talk to a lot of the young guys at the elementary, and hopefully one day we'll have that feel here.
No, I often talk to coaches, especially nowadays, and I'll bring this up. It's a touchy subject with some, but you kind of got to recruit your own kids. And a lot of times when kids move, it has to do with parent stuff.
Mhm.
But I know we have these discussions a lot, especially in the softball world, that if those kids grow up with the Titan tee and they're used to wearing, the colors, which I love the neon green,
Mhm.
and they've been wearing it for 3 or 4 years, and then mom comes and says, "Hey, I think we may move or something," and they go,
Mhm.
Like I've known Coach Clark for 3, 4, 5 years, that kind of stuff, and that makes it more difficult. But it also that's a whole another job in and of itself.
It is. Yep. So we was able to have an eighth grade team last year, which we end up, saying doing most of the coaching for the eighth grade team. So there's guys on that team that if we had not coached, we may not have them here. And those guys are going to be very impactful in this program.
Yeah.
So, just getting to know those kids, know the parents, because I met with one and she was like, "Coach, there's so many coaches just DMing us." She said, but when we talked to him, he said that he loves y'all. I love the way y'all interacting with my child. He's coming here. All right. So, it's big, just developing those relationships.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And again, it goes back to the small town feel. You're used to that, and
Hmm.
it's not anything new to you. So, talking about, hey, now you're meeting these kids. You were at Rockmart. I know y'all were at a lot of successful programs there. Coaches always think about stories they love, like just overtime, things that mean a lot to them. Could be funny, could be on the field, off the field. What's one of your favorite coaching stories from over the years?
What I remember from Rockmart was the 2018 season, the year we went to the state championship. Like that whole year itself was just like so many things went on in that year, good things, bad things, to highs and lows. But I just remember us being like, I remember coaches, like we would sit there, man, an hour after practice, just sitting there, just talking. To me that shows when you can stay and not hurry up and leave, something there's developing. We had kids, you can see them week after week starting to realize, dang, something special may be happening. So their attitude changed. It was just a really, really fun year. But I do remember in my second year in Rockmart, right? So we had Coach Joe McCoy, and he was anal about paying those lines. So he would always pull that line, and you hear him say, "Pull it tight, pull it tight." So we pulled it one time, and they put the screwdriver in the line, and the coach walks off, and it comes out of line, and it's just a line. As soon as his foot come up, the screwdriver's in his foot. So he goes running over there, and he looks, and he said, "Y'all handle that." He turns around and walks off. So I remember that, but that was funny.
Oh yeah, no, those are the kind of stories I love hearing too. And going back, we talked before we turned the camera on just about younger coaches and sticking around until the end of the day. And the end of the day is not 5:30 when practice is over. Sometimes it's, hey, how'd things go here? What do we need to do for the next day, and that kind of stuff. And so you get a lot of things as I think I told you I was going to ask about advice for new coaches, but also in being your first year as the head coach. Before I get to that one, I'll ask you, what is something that you've had to do as a head coach that you did not know was a part of the job description, for a new head coach this year?
Well, that's a tough one. Because I was fortunate to be around guys that showed me a lot of things and let me see a lot of things. But the toughest part is, just having to disappoint coaches with maybe you can't do this, or we're moving you here, or those was the hardest thing to me as a new head coach. Having to tell grown men certain things. So to me that was the hardest thing for me. But other than that, I kind of seen it.
No, and I love that you say that, because people don't think about that, where you want to put your coaches in a position to be successful. And there are sometimes, if you're just, and it might not be the X's and the O's, it might just be communication, it might be technology, it might be
Mhm.
certain things that they want to do, but they're just not there yet, where you might have to switch up some roles for that. And it's hard to tell a grown man that is for sure.
Yeah.
So what is something, if somebody, maybe you have an assistant coach that came to you now and said, "Coach Clark, I want to be a head coach one day." What piece of advice would you give them before they hopped in?
get involved in everything. And don't get, I can remember Coach Parson, he come to me, he said, so you want to be a head coach? Yeah. He said, I had been on defense side of the ball. He said, you want to be a head coach? You need to learn it all. So I moved from offense to defense. So I would tell a young guy, learn it all. So when you're a head coach, you know what you want your defense to look like. You know what your offense want to look like. You want your special team to look like. So now I can go to the defensive side and I know what I want our defense to look like. So I'm just not a head coach. It's just I don't know what's going on because I've been on that side and I've been on the offensive side. So I would say learn it all, do as much as you can. Don't wait on the head coach to tell you to do something. If you got ideas, hey, go to the head coach and put it out there and just get involved.
Oh yeah, and learning it all too. That's not always just again the X's and O's. Sometimes it's about hey, the washer ain't working anymore. Somebody's got to fix it, or something's going on in the weight room, like in the class, or like all the things that is for sure. So, one of the big ideas, the whole reason, for the interviews, kind of bring awareness to Coach Dooley's list. It's a website for coaches, those kind of things. And the only way I put vendors on the website is if they are referred to me by a coach. So who's somebody you've worked with, over the years? It could be just this year that, if somebody came and said, hey, I need this, that you'd love to shout out for them because they just did a great job for you.
So there's a new company that's trying to get off the ground. I'm probably the first customer. Studio 9 Solutions,
Studio 9 Solutions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that bag, I got the bag from them,
Okay.
So very, very affordable. This shirt come from Studio 9 Solution. So if you need something, you can reach out to me and I can send them your way, but very affordable prices. And so that's been a good
That's
one for
exactly what I'm looking for. Now, are they here local in Lawrenceville?
They are here local in Lawrenceville.
Awesome. Well, I will get your information. I'm actually adding new vendors now for the year, so I'll get them and try to get them added. All right, so last thing, a little fun. Didn't tell you what these were going to be. Do a little rapid fire questions just for the fans and just for fun. So you don't have to give any context, just an answer. We'll try to get through.
Yep.
If somebody's coming to town, they say, hey, look, I'm not going to ride the bus. My wife's coming with me. I want to go get some good food after the game. Where are you sending them?
Oh, man. Here, when I first got here, I tried every restaurant in town.
Well, you should know them.
Originally, I would have said Beto's, but now I would say Steamies. Right? Yes, they have the lobster rolls. Has been one of my.
Where is that?
It's off Duluth Highway, I want to say.
Steamies on Duluth Highway.
Yes.
Okay, I've got to add that to the list. All right, now this could be from back in the playing days, or if you've got one now. Did you ever have a pregame hype song?
Pre-game hype song. Man, I used to listen to Bone Thugs and Harmony on the way to games when I was in high school with my Walkman and my cassette tape.
One of my best friends is we call him Wish because of Wishbone.
Yeah.
So we knew some Bone back in the day. I love it. Who is the best coach you've ever worked with or coached against? Maybe even somebody that was on the other side that just you knew you were going to get your best out of them, or they were going to bring out the best in you.
I appreciate my time with Coach Duff and, Coach Parson. I think I learned a lot of organization and, just how to make hard decisions from Coach Parson. So, I'm appreciative of my time with Coach Parson.
Love it. And and I know you haven't really established this yet because your first game's actually this will air next Friday on your first game. So you've had it in the past, but what do you look like? What do you think your pregame ritual will be now as a head coach?
Man, yeah. So
it's probably going to change.
It is. So in the spring game, it was a lot of me, just doing a lot of different things. But since then, I kind of delegated a lot of stuff. So I think I'm just gonna, sit right here and just get my mind right and, think about, decisions I want to make and plays we may want to call. So I probably just take time to myself.
Turn on some Bone when you're doing
that.
Get
I might
going.
just do that now because I had a lot of success in high school.
I love it. All right, so last one. Who is somebody that you think other coaches would like to hear from? Who should I add to the interview list?
Let's see here. Coach Hayward over at Pepper.
Okay.
Yeah, really good friend of mine. I talked with him. I actually called him. I said, hey, man, how was your first couple months. Did it seem like everything went smooth? He said, absolutely not. He said, you feel like that? I said, I do a little bit. That's why I called you. But Brandon Haywood would be a good guy to talk to.
Awesome. I will. Now that Pepperell's north of Rome. That's
yep.
over on the other
Florida
neck of the
County.
woods. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at that. So, well, listen, Coach, I wish you nothing but the best. I appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy it is at the start of the season, and I'm looking for big things from y'all. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.